Hello everyone, my name is Sarah King. I am the Vice President of the Resilience Associate Board and a member of this year's Planning Committee for the second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you're enjoying the luncheon. We really appreciate your support for resilience and survivors. By being here today, you're not just showing your support, but you're showing your commitment to survivors and your commitment to ending sexual and interpersonal violence in our communities. This allows Resilience to provide services to people all over the greater Chicago area, including legal and medical advocacy, trauma and crisis intervention therapy, and prevention education. Each of these services are critical for ending interpersonal and sexual violence. Thank you so much for joining. If you'd like to donate today, you can click that QR code at the top of your screen, or you can go to ourresilience.org and click the blue donate button. Enjoy!
Hi, welcome to our second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. My name is Shonda Nelson and I volunteered with Resilience in the late 90s. Don't tell anybody. But I am happy to be here today as a board member. And I'm very passionate about the work that we do, and that work can only be done with your continued support. So we'd like to ask that you donate. You can do so by going to our website at ourresilience.org. You can click on the blue donate button, or you can scan the QR code. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Kate Meyer. I am a member of the Resilience Board of Directors and chair of the Resource Development Committee. Thank you for joining us today at our second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. This last year, Resilience reached more than 11,000 individuals with our programs and education. In addition, we reached many individuals with our services, despite this being a pandemic year. And all of this is due to supporters like you. With that in mind, we hope you will continue your unwavering support. On your screen, there will be a QR code. You can go ahead and scan that and donate from there, or you can always visit ourresilience.org and click the blue donate button at the top right-hand corner of the screen. We so appreciate your support, and we appreciate you being here today. Thanks so much and enjoy the program.
Hello, my name is Hannah Meerhoff, and I am proud to serve as the Treasurer of the Resilience Associate Board. The Associate Board plays an important role in raising awareness and funds for resilience. Since launching in July of 2019, we have made significant contributions to the organization through fundraising, cultivating partnerships, recruiting volunteers, and enhancing the visibility of the organization's mission to support survivors and end sexual violence. Thank you for your continued generous support. We have so much to celebrate today. We are grateful that you are here at the Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. The program will begin shortly.
Hi, my name is Becca Burkustos. I use she, they pronouns, and I am a legal and medical advocate based in our Austin satellite office at Resilience. As an advocate, not only do I provide emotional support and non-judgmental crisis intervention, but I walk survivors through their rights and options that are available to them through civil, criminal, and medical routes. Some of the experiences that survivors face after an assault can be very difficult and confusing, and some survivors may not have a support system. So we as advocates do the best that we can to make sure that our clients feel believed and supported throughout this process. We operate on a survivor-centered model, so it's very important that our survivors know which options are available to them so they can choose what works best for them. We have an amazing team of advocates at Resilience that do a magnificent job at supporting our survivors. And the support that we receive from you and the rest of our community is what makes Resilience work possible. So thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, I'm Kim Garvey, Advocacy Volunteer Coordinator here at Resilience. As Volunteer Coordinator, it's my job to work with over 100 incredible advocates who give their time and energy to making sure every survivor receives the dignity and respect they deserve. Our volunteers are our first responders, going into partner hospitals and providing trauma-informed, survivor-centered care. They make sure every survivor knows that we believe them and that it's not their fault. As a former volunteer, I know our advocates provide the empathy and support that can help a survivor on their path towards healing. Thank you for joining us in our mission of empowering survivors and ending sexual violence. Your support today makes our work possible.
Hi everyone, my name is Annelise Castro. Thank you so much for being here at the second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. I'm one of the trauma therapists here, and prior to this role, I worked on the team as an art therapy intern. So I get to work one-on-one with clients to provide trauma therapy services, and I've also helped provide art interventions on a group basis. So for the month of April, during Sexual Assault Awareness Month, I hosted an open studio care space. And I've also helped build curriculum for an art therapy and journaling group. If you would like to learn more about any of our programs at Resilience, you can go to ourresilience.org. And on behalf of everyone here at Resilience, we want to thank you so much for being here and enjoy the luncheon.
Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Ramirez and I'm the founder and executive director of the nonprofit organization And Rise. And Rise and Resilience have a great partnership together. And Rise is a huge supporter of what Resilience is doing in their fight to help survivors. We have taken their 40-hour sexual assault training, and we also have been involved in the April Sexual Assault Awareness Month meetings as well. And we just love everything that they're doing and the ways that they help survivors. And we want to thank you for your support. And Resilience is able to reach survivors and help them in a variety of ways by you supporting them. And we're really excited to have you all today at the Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. So your program will begin soon, and thank you for being a part of this. Again, Jennifer Ramirez taking off. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome to the second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. My name is Erin Walton and I am Executive Director of Resilience. I am so delighted that you have joined us today, and I'm feeling pretty optimistic that we will be able to host this event and other events in person sometime soon. I want to sincerely thank our Governing Board of Directors, Associate Board, our tireless volunteers and unwavering staff, and all of you, our supporters and community, and our event sponsors for your trust and partnership in our work to empower survivors and end sexual violence. Today's event sponsors are Protivity as our leader sponsor, Beth Meyer and Kate Meyer as benefactor sponsors, partner sponsors Gary and Vicki Pines and Wintrust, ambassador sponsor The Sound, design sponsor Ponos Design. A special thank you to Sarah King, our event planning committee chair, for being an instrumental partner with our development team to make today's luncheon a success. Proceeds from today's event will help fund our prevention and intervention programs, which collectively impact over 22,000 people across Chicago each year. On behalf of all those we serve and impact, I again thank you all. We couldn't support them without you. The Celebrating Resilience Luncheon is an opportunity to bring our community together to celebrate someone who has shown extraordinary resilience in their own life. By celebrating the resilience in one person, it's our hope that each of you will be inspired and will recognize and honor the resilience that resides in you. We are delighted to celebrate and welcome this year's keynote speaker, Julie Smolyansky, President and CEO of Lifeway Foods. We look forward to her sharing her fascinating story of resilience with us today. But first, I'd like to take a few minutes to highlight a bit about our work here at Resilience. How survivors are treated in the aftermath of sexual violence is critical to their healing process. To ensure survivors get fair treatment and non-judgmental support, it's important that the professionals that work directly with survivors have the right training. Resilience has a long history of working with hospitals, schools, law enforcement, social service organizations, community centers, and others to provide high-quality training in sexual violence response and prevention. But it wasn't until 2018 that we formally structured our training program and established the Resilience Training Institute. The primary goal of the Institute is to help ensure professionals are equipped to effectively support the survivors they work with each day. This year alone, our goal is to provide 175 presentations to over 3,000 professionals. And with your help, we will continue to grow and expand in the year ahead. Join me in watching the following video to learn even more information about our Training Institute. Thank you again for joining us today. We look forward to a powerful and thought-provoking program.
The Resilience Training Institute is a space so that professionals and service providers can feel equipped to support survivors and provide trustworthy, specialized institutional responses. We offer a 40-hour training about 2 to 3 times a year to
any professionals or pretty much anybody who wants to learn more about working with survivors, and we have a variety of folks who come to us for those trainings.
Resilience also provides a 60-hour training for our volunteers. Volunteers are usually people that will take around 2 shifts a month in the hospitals. So they are the first responders to those crisis calls. Every hospital in the state of Illinois needs to partner with the Rape Crisis Center, and Resilience partners with over 17 hospitals.
We approach all of our trainings from this socio-ecological health model to understand what sexual violence is, what causes it, and how can we be active and effective bystanders in our community, both on an individual level and a community level, to stop sexual violence before it happens.
Resilience really serves a lot of different populations of people, whether it's working professionals in the medical field, educators and teachers, legal aides, and that really shows that we can end sexual violence and that it requires all of us. And that's definitely representative in the people that come through the doors in our trainings.
And then we do have a lot of survivors who come to us who are seeking, just healing in a different way. Maybe they've gone through counseling or other services, and they say, I think that learning more about this would really help in my healing process. And that is a really powerful tool as well.
At the end of the day, resilience is survivor-centered. So all of our trainings aim to restore power to survivors so that they can take back control of their narrative and how they heal.
It helps survivors that are both in that training, that have taken this training, and it also impacts survivors that other people will come in contact with. When you donate to Resilience, you are showing up for that longer term effort, but then also that instant holistic approach that we aim to bring to all of our trainings.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Andreessen, and I'm the board president for Resilience. Thank you so much for coming to our Celebrating Resilience Luncheon today. We are so appreciative of your time. I've been on the board for the past 7 years and will be concluding my final year on the board here in the next few months. It has been such a privilege. I could not be prouder of our staff, volunteers, community supporters, and those who we serve. This past year has been such a challenging one, yet our staff has been resilient and come out stronger than ever in order to serve those in need. And they have certainly been busy. They provided critical therapy services for 653 survivors and their loved ones. They've served 850 survivors of sexual violence. They've reached over 11,000 individuals, including Chicago public school students, through our preventative education program. And finally, they trained over 3,000 professionals, including law enforcement, hospital workers, and clinicians, making us the largest professional trainer on sexual violence prevention in the state of Illinois. We could not have accomplished this without the generosity and just amazing support from you, our donors, our volunteers, and sponsors. Thank you so much. We are so appreciative. Your help and support allows Resilience to continue to provide free services to anyone in need, and we want to continue that into the future with your help. Today's luncheon is about celebrating resilience. We are so grateful for Julie Smolyansky for being our keynote speaker. Julie has been such a great friend and supporter of resilience for so many years and a tireless activist for survivors for over 30 years. Julie herself has been resilient in her personal and professional life. She has really been an inspiration to those as we all try to fight and combat and support survivors of sexual violence. Julie, thank you so much for serving as our keynote speaker today. Finally, it is my great honor and privilege to introduce United States Senator Dick Durbin. Senator Durbin, thank you so much for being part of our program today. Senator Durbin has been a courageous champion and strong supporter for survivors of domestic and sexual violence throughout his career. Thank you, Senator Durbin, for being such an ally and committed leader to end sexual violence and work with us and other organizations to do so. We are so privileged to have you here, and thank you again. So with that, I hope you all enjoy the Celebrating Resilience Luncheon program today, and we are so appreciative of your support, and we look forward to your ongoing support into the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom. I'm honored to be part of this second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon. I want to thank Resilience, your staff, your volunteers, and supporters for all you've done to really save and transform lives. That's a curious thing about tipping points. Often we don't know that our universe is about to shift and the future is really going to be different. A few years ago, two little words, "Me Too," marked the arrival of a new tipping point. Those two words help survivors all over the world understand the victims of sexual assault are not alone. They should never feel ashamed, and they have a right to justice. Of course, tipping points aren't reached simply because of words. They are the result of years and years of working to change old beliefs and accepted practices. Resilience has been doing that for nearly 50 years. Today, your work is more important than ever. While stay-at-home orders and social isolation have saved millions of lives, those same safety measures have also left increased risk of sexual assault and domestic violence and made it harder for many victims to look for help. True to its name, Resilience quickly pivoted to meet the times. You put in longer hours to provide services to 16,000 survivors and family members. Instead of in-person sessions, you started offering counsel and therapy by phone and online. You help victims to find ways to be safe, even in a pandemic. I'm proud to be your partner as your senator, as the majority whip of the U.S. Senate, and the new chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I'm working hard to see that the Violence Against Women Act is finally strengthened and authorized. Now it's my honor to introduce a leader who's been a real trailblazer in business and someone who's demonstrated resiliency in her life over and over. Julie Smolyansky is President and CEO of Lifeway Foods. She's also co-founder of Test 400K, an organization dedicated to ending the backlog of 400,000 untested rape kits in America. A survivor herself, Julie has been a fierce advocate in the fight against sexual violence. In high school, she worked with the YWCA to create their first teen dating violence curriculum. Since then, she's traveled all over the world to support other survivors. From working with the Obama White House on their It's On Us campaign to producing several award-winning films on social justice, she has aided individuals and communities across the country in the fight against sexual violence. Julie, thanks for all you've done and continue to do. Julie has helped countless survivors tell their stories. Today, we get to hear her inspiring story. Please help me to welcome this year's Celebrating Resilience keynote speaker, Julie Smolyansky.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to start by thanking my dear friend, Senator Durbin, for that warm and generous introduction. As I was preparing for this lunch, I was recalling one of my last conversations I had with my father shortly before he passed away almost 20 years ago. We had been arguing and debating some social issue, as we often did, when he suddenly turned to me and said, "Julie, one of these days, I'm going to turn you into a senator." And I remember my heart broke a little that afternoon at his suggestion, because in the back of my mind, I thought there's no way a path like that could ever be a possibility for me, because I experienced this horrible thing. I had this secret that I carried around, that up until the floodgates of the Me Too movement cracked open, I carried a burden filled with shame. I thought there'd be no way a public-facing career in politics could ever be a possibility, that I could ever be a senator, because my story would be turned into something it wasn't. And I just quietly put my head down and said, "Dad, no, that's not for me. I can't do that." And he said, "Trust me. I see things in you that you have yet to see in yourself." And to some extent, he was right. So to be introduced and to share the stage all these years later with the great Senator Durbin, not just any senator, but one of the greatest champions of survivors around the world, and certainly in this country, the third most televised senators appearing on Sunday talk shows, a man who's championed the Violence Against Women Act and its reauthorization time and time again, who continues to lead the fight in ending the scandalous rape kit backlog, who fiercely defended human rights and crimes against humanity when rape was used as a weapon of war around the world, visiting the Rape Crisis Center in the Congo not just once, but multiple times. A senator who bravely, with unwavering questioning during the Kavanaugh hearings, and who most recently has been fighting for critical life-saving funds within the CARES Act during the pandemic, offering critical life-saving funds for sexual assault, abuse survivors. And while I am not a senator, to be sharing the stage and to be introduced by this senator for this issue, with all my truth for the world to see and to know, well, it truly does feel like full circle and like my own wholeness has been restored. I'd also like to thank everyone at Resilience, Erin Walton, Amy O'Keefe, Miranda Emke, Victoria Herrera, the Resilience Board and staff and volunteers who work tirelessly not just for this important lunch, but around the clock and available 24/7 to make sure that survivors are supported in all areas of their lives. You are doing the work of angels, and I wish for you to have continued strength to do this challenging and heavy work. I am so honored to be with you all here today and to have the opportunity to speak. Because, like for so many survivors, speaking was not always safe. I am filled with gratitude and overcome with emotion because very honestly, there were times when I wasn't sure that I'd survive. It took a million miracles and for the universe to conspire for me to stay here. I fought hard to be here, and I don't take that for granted. Every 73 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men will experience sexual violence. 94% of victims experience PTSD. 33% contemplate suicide, and 13% attempt suicide. I will never grow numb to these statistics. None of us should. It's even more meaningful for me to be here with you today because I myself was a rape crisis advocate with Resilience in the 90s. And I later joined their board, so I know firsthand all about the powerful, life-saving advocacy and support this special organization offers to survivors. And I can say with certainty just how lucky Chicago is to have the services Resilience offers, because my journey has taken me around the world, and I've spent hours upon hours with survivors in communities with unmet needs. And sometimes it is the difference between life and death. And that is worth everything. We should celebrate it, and it should inspire us all to recommit ourselves to sending a message here in Chicago and around the world, sending a message to survivors that you are not alone, that we see you, that we are here for you, that you are safe to rest your head, to rest your heart, your body, your mind, and your soul. Here you can heal. Since I was a little girl, I've been fascinated with the concept of resilience. Resilience is a noun. It is the capacity of a person to maintain their core purpose and their integrity in the face of dramatically changed circumstances. What does it take to build resilience after unfathomable dark moments, when unspeakable violence touches our lives and our communities? How do we move forward? How do we heal? How do we restore wholeness and reclaim all that is ours? I've come to believe it's through moments like this. We heal in community. We heal when we share our stories and allow others to share theirs. We heal when we allow ourselves to be seen. And we heal when we allow others to sit with our pain, not move it or fix it, but just sit with it. This last year has been hard for everyone, no matter who you are or where you live. The pandemic has impacted every single person on earth. But for survivors, it was especially challenging. For some, wearing a mask and having their face covered, their breathing restricted, triggered anxiety and panic attacks. I know it did for me. And for some, home is not a safe place. As the world took a pause, the economy tumbled, and we went through unprecedented uncertainty, victims were forced to shelter in place with abusers. And as lockdown orders took shape around the world, a surge in abuse also unfolded, and calls to sexual assault and domestic violence hotlines skyrocketed. Access to teachers, mentors, coaches, and friends, often the first to see red flags in victims, were cut off. And now, as we come out of quarantine, the trauma from what some witnessed and some experienced in their homes will have long-term impact, which is why today I am compelled, now more than ever, to make sure that survivors know that they are not alone, that they are worthy and loved, and that there are people and resources available to them right now to help them restore wholeness and recover from their trauma. It takes guts to exist as a survivor, to keep showing up for yourself, to treat yourself with compassion and empathy. It's the most courageous and brave thing you will ever do. You deserve medical care, legal care, mental care, soul care, and self-care. You deserve an investigation and a justice system that respects you. You deserve a community that rises up to meet you with compassion and empathy. You deserve to be believed. And you deserve a society that is brave enough to say that we have spent our days determined to eradicate rape and sexual assault and domestic violence. You deserve it all. And undoubtedly, what I want you to embody is the knowing that you belong here. You deserve to stay. You are loved and you are unbreakable. That what you thought was broken are places where divine light shines and courage lives. Happiness will grow again like wildflowers. And when you get tired again, when trauma revisits your mind and your body at unexpected moments, like trauma finds me over and over again, when your heart is racing and you feel like you're walking through fire and jumping out of your body, I am with you. I am holding your hand. And I want you to know that you are not alone. You will never be alone. There is a light and it will never go out. You have infinite and eternal capacity to root into the earth and to weather the storm. It is your birthright to heal, to restore wholeness. But healing is nonlinear and it is messy and it has no timeline. It is an ongoing process and I have done it over and over again, and I know you can too. I am rooting for you and I'm rooting for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for that message, and again for being here with us today. You've had such an inspiring journey and have had to demonstrate such strength in both your personal and professional life. So I'd love to start this conversation with you sharing with us a bit about you personally. In a very real way, you've had to learn about resilience at a young age. Your family defected from Soviet Union when you were young, and you came to Chicago. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yes. Well, thank you, Erin. It's so nice to be able to have this conversation together. I mean, honestly, I feel like in my DNA, the stories of resilience and survivorship is something that runs deep, that, my ancestors, I carry a knowing of that infinite resilience, that infinite light that, I feel my great-grandmothers and great-great-great-grandmothers, that they're with me. And rooting for me. And, I think that there's sort of a knowing in our bodies of getting through really challenging times. And that, I really stand on their shoulders, on, the shoulders of all who came before me. And I feel like, I survived because I wanted to survive, and, thrive because I wanted to thrive. And, one of the reasons that my parents wanted to immigrate to the United States and leave their home country is because they knew that in America there would be an infinite number of resources available, resources like resilience here in Chicago. These are resources that are not always available in other communities around, not only in the United States, but around the world. And I really, went through in this journey knowing how fortunate I was that I grew up in a community that did offer tools to help me get through the most challenging, darkest moments of my life. And, I feel a tremendous amount of gratitude that I'm here with you today, that I've been able to, speak up and shine a light on some really difficult, challenging topics, sexual assault and rape and abuse and violence against women and children. These are really difficult, challenging topics that we don't always have the vocabulary to articulate, the things that have happened to us, to our bodies, to, our souls. And, it just, I think, resilience is something that we all have an infinite amount of. There's not like, oh, we used it all up. It's all there. It's there for us all to go and go back to over and over again.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Julie, you've had quite an impressive professional career. You became the youngest female CEO of a publicly held firm when you were 27. You took over leadership at Lifeway Foods in 2002 after your father's unexpected passing. I don't recall what I was doing at 27, but it certainly wasn't something that impressive. You've grown the business from being a $12 million annual business to more than $120 million today. And you have all kinds of notable accolades. I'll name a few. Fortune's 40 under 40, Fortune's 55 most influential women on Twitter, Fortune Business Best Instagrammers of the 40 under 40, and Fast Company's Most Creative People in Business 1000. That's a lot. Tell us a little bit about Lifeway Foods and what you would say is the most important lesson you've taken away from your time as CEO.
Yes, well, part of being a leader is using your story to influence others, and using, your pains, and your light, your darkness and your light to help change the world and inspire others to join you. And, I really knew that kind of as my career was taking off, that I had an opportunity as my platform was growing to shine a light on the most taboo, most challenging things that we face in our society. When my father died, a lot of people were like, how did you, run the company? How did you get through that time? And in the back of my mind, I had already known that the worst had already happened. All of the worst had already happened, and I had gotten through it. And so that strength, that piece of resilience, that fighting spirit, that warrior within me, it was activated. And I knew that I had to go through this, that there was no way to escape where I was, and I had to just go through it. And that as that platform grew, that I had an opportunity to speak about things that most people will never say in the corporate world. And I have to believe that, my 30 years of advocacy in this issue has helped my customers as well in some way, because, many times people come to Lifeway with a medical crisis, some kind of irritable bowel syndrome or some kind of autoimmune, and what we are learning today is how trauma lives in our body and manifests in a physical way. And so I believe that in our society, we have all of this, unresolved trauma that is just untreated, unseen, that doesn't have a space to be healed. And I felt like I had a role to play in bringing this conversation to light, and that it was so much further than just like a physical manifestation of trauma, but there was really work to be done spiritually, mentally, and in so many ways. And so I guess I just, I thought failure wasn't an option, and that I was able to, in this role in a corporate world, really give voice to people who feel like they don't have one. And I have to believe that since the Me Too movement kind of broke wide open, that I played a small role in, painting those mosaics, the small tiles on the mosaic that we, can see today. So, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you so much for all that you've done. And I would like to kind of dive into that a little bit more and talk a bit about your advocacy, because not only have you been dedicated to creating a successful career, but you've also been committed to bringing visibility to the epidemic of sexual violence. And as you mentioned, for almost 30 years, you've been actively working to end domestic violence and sexual assault. And you started in high school with a teen dating violence curriculum, helping to create that with the YWCA. And beyond that, you became a rape crisis counselor. I proudly say that you're a former board member of Resilience. And then you worked with the Obama White House, I should say, on their It's On Us campaign, which is an awareness campaign to help put an end to sexual assault across college campuses. You've produced documentaries, and the Emmy Award-winning and Oscar-nominated documentary, The Hunting Ground, was something that we all proudly displayed and showed with our community. Your journey has been quite adventurous and brave. What made you decide to take on the work of educating people about sexual violence at such a young age?
Yeah, well, shortly after I experienced my own trauma and my own assault, I refused to be defined by it, and I refused to be defeated. I think this violence that, I experienced, that so many of us experience, is something that can make you feel broken and separate from the rest of society. It has, brought me to my knees. It has taken me on journeys around the world, as you mentioned. And through it all, what I knew, even as a young kid, that there would be many behind me, many, generations behind me, that I wasn't just fighting for myself, that even before I, became a mother, that I was already, as a teenager, fighting for my future children, my future grandchildren, my future great-grandchildren, for all of our children. I was fighting for the, generations before me, even on my ancestors that were unable to speak about their trauma. And so I just felt that
I had to work really hard to make sure that no one ever experienced what I experienced, that if they did experience violence and it touched their lives, that there would be resources available for them to help them restore wholeness, to reclaim their lives, to, heal, to integrate their body, mind, and spirit. I just knew I had to do everything in my power to design a world that I wanted to live in, that I wanted my children to live in, and make it safer. And at the end of the day, I really wanted to eradicate rape, sexual assault, and abuse and violence against women and children. That's really my end goal, and that I would do everything in my power, no matter how much pain it brought me, no matter how uncomfortable I personally felt talking about these issues myself, that I would be brave enough to face it and to shine a light on it, and to, hold my chin up high, so that no one would ever have to experience what I experienced, and what so many others experienced. So, and I would do it all over again every single time.
That's great. And Julie, that's our end goal as well. We're here to empower survivors and to fight this good fight of ending sexual violence across the world. Would you say that your advocacy work influenced your career, or your career influenced your advocacy work, or both? And if so, how?
Yeah, I think it's both. And I would actually say, Erin, that I received my training around crisis work with what was formerly Rape Victim Advocates and now Resilience. And I learned so much. I learned from survivors every day, from the people that you serve, that we served. I learned about how important it is to be seen, how important it is to see the people that live in our community that are impacted by this violence. And everybody is impacted by violence. There is no piece that is left untouched by trauma and sexual assault. And it's such an epidemic all over the world. And I think it's one of the most important conversations that we have. And to do so with an intersectional lens, that we look at the voices that are most disenfranchised, that are most unseen. The survivors that Resilience works with have really guided much of my advocacy work. And I'm well aware that many of us don't survive, that, I recall one of the Resilience fundraisers, the fundraisers in the evenings that we had.
Women of Impact?
Yes. And with Tom Seberg, who is Lizzie Seberg's father. Lizzie was a student at Notre Dame. She was assaulted and she reported her rape, and she took her life, unfortunately, later on, a few days after. And, I fully recognize that could have been me, that I could have been Lizzie. And, that story left me with, and hearing Tom's pain at, having to face this. I just said, I can't let another person go down this path, that I had to continue to be brave, to even braver than I ever thought I was. And I had to actually say that this too was me. It wasn't just, that I was supporting the issue. I really had to humanize the story further and put my own face to the issue. And that work inspired me. Your work inspires me every day. The survivors inspire me every single day. And there's no time that I'm kind of doing my day-to-day that I'm not centered on survivors in some way. So, I think, it's really synergistic, that, my real kind of purpose is to help reduce suffering, to shine a light on these stories, to shine a light on those who feel that they maybe don't have a voice. And there's, thousands of survivors I've had the privilege of speaking with, and millions that I never will, but will fight till my dying breath to make sure that they are heard and seen and loved, that they know that they're unbreakable and that they have resources right now, right here today, with the work that you guys do at Resilience.
So you've expanded your work, your advocacy work, to the big screen, working on multiple documentaries, as I mentioned earlier, one of which was Emmy Award winning. What do you think working on those documentaries has taught you about not only your survivorship, but that of those who were involved in those documentaries?
Yeah, well, you mentioned The Hunting Ground. The Hunting Ground was, Emmy winning, Grammy nominated, and I had the great honor of sharing the stage with Lady Gaga and 50 survivors for the 2016 Oscars for Till It Happens to You, which was a song that Gaga gave to the film. And, that is the biggest international platform. There's, what a great way to destigmatize and, shine a light on this than the Oscar stage and Lady Gaga. And, this happened before the Me Too movement really broke open, just a few months before. And I truly believe that the Hunting Ground in that moment really helped create one of those dominoes that really helped empower people with sharing their stories. And the Me Too movement, that collective unburdening of these stories. So, I think that the work around documentary work has kind of given it scale. Like, it really gave us this tool in society and culture to talk about it. After the Hunting Ground, over 300 Title IX investigations took place at universities across the country. The most powerful institutions, Harvard, Yale, Stanford, were all forced to come to terms with their cover-ups and their lack of procedures and policies around survivors. And so I'm very, very proud of it. And Senator Durbin has introduced so much legislation around this work. So it's very powerful. And like with On the Record, On the Record stands at the center of Black Lives Matter and the Me Too movement, and gives that intersectional lens to help support women of color who maybe often feel that they've been left out of this conversation, or not seen, not believed, not heard, even more than, women of color, than white women with resources. I mean, so to be able to give that voice, listen, we've always had our voices, we just need to be heard. That makes me very proud also.
And another way that you've expanded your platform is by being a co-founder of Test 400K. Can you tell us a little bit about what Test 400K is, and maybe some of the challenges that you faced in doing that work?
Yes. Test 400K is an organization that I co-founded to help end the backlog, the scandal of the backlog of untested rape kits. Through my work with Resilience, when I was an advocate, a volunteer, I sat in at least 100 hospital rooms across the city of Chicago, holding the hand of survivors as their rape kit was taken. It was dehumanizing and painful to, be a part of. It was, incredibly challenging to really sit with that pain that so many of us face. But what I realized is that, I read this report that like 20 years later, that
less than 20% of evidence is ever analyzed. And I just thought, wow, this is insane. Like, how could this be happening in the United States? And Human Rights Watch called it the biggest scandal facing women in the United States, the biggest human rights violation that women in the United States face. And I just couldn't believe this was happening in my backyard. And all those survivors that I sat with, that so many of them, their cases just stalled and their evidence was completely disregarded. And I just got so angry. I was so, I felt like, well, I have like all these resources and this network, this platform. I need to talk about it because no one's talking about it. And so Test 400K was born, and we sent an unused, unused rape kit to every governor across the country. So 50 rape kits went out to governors across the United States with a call to action to do rape kit reform, change policies around rape kits, create accountability, to demand a tracking system and a platform for survivors to go to be able to see the status of their kit, to create transparency around this process, because there has not been any. And so that survivors really have a stake in their advocacy and can, be empowered to advocate on their own behalf once they have transparency, and to create, an accountability for the justice system here and around the country. And so since we've launched Test 400K, we've seen legislation around rape kit reform in almost every state. And, Senator Durbin here in Illinois has been leading some of the most groundbreaking rape kit reform. So it's really great to know that we had a role in that new future. But, honestly, just if I can kind of get personal about it, I never really reported my assault to any sort of police department. And I feel like with this work that in my own way, I'm creating justice even for myself, and that, justice really shows up in many different ways. And that, the people who have gone through this really selfless act of reporting their crime deserve to have due process and accountability and an investigation and justice. And so I think through this work, I'm kind of fighting on behalf of myself too, even though, I never went through that process myself.
Thank you so much for that. Test 400K and other allies and folks that are doing that work, it's really transformative. So I appreciate you and applaud you for that. My final question is really for you to speak to our audience today. If someone is listening and feels like, they want to get involved in some way, and maybe not have a platform as big as yours, what would you recommend to folks?
Yeah, well, we're here today. We've all been gathered here today, and I don't believe that there's just a coincidence in that. I think that we're all meant to be here to listen to this message, to just by us coming together like this, we're telling and sending a strong message to survivors that they matter, that their stories matter, that their truth matters, that their shame that they might feel is not theirs. It's, the perpetrators, and they deserve all the love, all the joy, all of the healing that's available. They deserve, infinite amount of light. I always say after the rain, there is always light. The sun comes out. They deserve all of that. And that, they are unbreakable, that they are loved, that there are many people fighting and rooting for them. And that, for those of us who love survivors and, have been impacted, and again, we all have been, that just by holding space, just letting somebody share their stories. That, you know, it is one of the greatest privilege of my life is to be able to sit with people and sit with their pain and to hold space for them. And that's already an infinite amount of love that we're, you know, offering survivors. And, you know, the work that you do at Resilience, the work that the volunteers do, that the staff does, that all of the supporters are, that are, you know, supporting today's event, each one of us, each one of you is providing life-saving services. And you're all angels in very special ways. And it's really, truly an honor to be able to be here with you all today.
Thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and for sharing your story. We would also have a special thank you to our board president, Tom Andreessen, U.S. Senator Dick Durbin, and again, Julie, thank you for sharing your fascinating story and for being an unwavering champion for both resilience and survivors. You are truly an inspiration to us. Remember that you have until 5 p.m. today to purchase your raffle ticket. You can also support the luncheon by making a donation, which you can do by scanning the QR code in the corner of your screen. Thank you so much for joining us for our second annual Celebrating Resilience Luncheon, and have a great rest of your day.